Deep underwater, many artifacts and even entire submerged cities are hidden from our eyes. In this video, I invite you to get acquainted with the most amazing finds discovered in swamps, rivers, and lakes. Enjoy the watch. In 2022, a 78-year-old resident of Bohol Island in the Philippines went for a walk in the forest. When he didn't return home by evening, his family raised the alarm and contacted the police. The search for the missing man began the next day. On the first day, the searchers found a steamed bun. Relatives of the elderly man reported that he had taken a few of those buns with him on his walk. On the second day, a place where someone had cooked rice was discovered. Nearby, there was again half of that very bun. On the third day, one of the volunteers was checking a section of the forest near a river. When he heard the clicking sound of crab pincers, he hypothesized that the starving missing man might have gone to the river to catch crabs. Exiting the forest, he realized his guess was accurate. The elderly man was indeed sitting on the rocks by the river. The grandfather was healthy and unharmed. The searchers brought him home, where his loved ones had been anxiously waiting. Watching this clip, you might think that the river's water is colored red through video editing software, but in reality, it's a genuine river. About 100 kilometers from the Peruvian city of Cusco flows the Palcoyo River. Its water is colored in a vibrant raspberry red hue. This uniqueness attracts many tourists and is a distinctive natural attraction of Peru. The Palcoyo River takes on this unusual color only during the rainy season. At other times, its water is quite muddy and has a brownish color. With the onset of rains, the river not only changes its shade, but also becomes wider, deeper, and cleaner. So why does such an unusual phenomenon occur in the Palcoyo River? The fact is that the river originates in the area of the Rainbow Mountains in the Andes. These terrains, by the way, also look simply fantastic. Their colorful layers formed millions of years ago from red sandstone, which, under many factors, took on various colors. A significant amount of iron oxide from the Rainbow Mountains enters the Palcoyo River, which gives the river its red color. A stone river, or kurum, is an unusual natural phenomenon where many stones accumulate in a long winding line, resembling a river when viewed from above. The world's largest stone river is located in Russia, in the South Ural National Park, Taganay. The Stone River here lies between two mountain ranges, Big and Middle Taganay. Its length is 6 kilometers, and its maximum width can reach up to 700 meters. Taganay, like other kurums, consists of massive stone boulders. The weight of one such stone can reach 10 tons. Tourists walking along the Stone River can clearly hear the sounds of gurgling water, and if you look closely, in some areas, under the boulders, you can indeed see small streams. Scientists still cannot fully unravel the nature of such a fascinating and unusual phenomenon. They only assume that stone rivers are traces of once massive landslides. However, the national park's website mentions that Taganay originated after boulders broke off from the mountains due to a sudden cooling and slid down. In 1950, peat cutters discovered a mummy in the Bjelskovdal bog in Denmark that was so well preserved it could be mistaken for a sleeping man. Upon seeing it, the workers believed the body belonged to a recently killed individual. The mummy was found in the bog at a depth of about 2.5 meters. The deceased was lying with bent knees in a fetal position. On his head was a sheepskin cap with a strap to hold it in place. Around his waist was a leather belt. The man's neck was tightly bound with a plaited leather cord. The rest of the clothing was hard to determine as it had rotted away. Research indicated that the man died about 2,500 years ago at around the age of 40. Scientists surmised that his death resulted from hanging, after which he was thrown into the bog. He likely became one of the victims whose lives were offered to ancient pagan gods. The mummy was so impeccably preserved that researchers were even able to determine that the man had eaten a meal of flax and barley porridge before his death. People often accidentally drop their phones into water. When a smartphone falls into a deep body of water, there's almost no hope of finding and reviving it. But as they say, nothing is impossible. This story took place in the United Kingdom. A man named Owen Davis lost his iPhone while canoeing on the River Wye. Davis made a mistake and capsized the canoe, and his phone fell out of his pocket. He didn't even try to find it. 10 months later, a town resident of Cinderford, Miguel Pacheco, accidentally found the lost phone at the bottom of the river. He took the iPhone out of the water, dried it off, and tried to turn it on. To his great surprise, it worked. He then posted on social media with a photo of his find, hoping to locate the owner. By pure chance, Owen saw the post and recognized his phone. He contacted Miguel and retrieved his gadget. Imagine walking through a dense forest at night, and suddenly, before your eyes, a doll appears, seated on a swing. Such a scene could be the opening for a horror film, but the residents of the Australian town of Lucinda have had the fortune, or misfortune, to witness such a sight firsthand. Not far from the town, there's a forest and several swamps, and next to one of them, a doll sits on a swing suspended from a tree. When the wind blows, it sways as if a living child were playing on the swing. It looks quite eerie. Despite the doll's seemingly innocent childlike face, local residents tend to keep their distance. Townspeople believe that if one approaches the toy, it will guard its territory and cast a curse. From that moment on, the person will be plagued by misfortunes and illnesses. Who brought the doll and for what purpose remains a mystery. Perhaps the person who set up this installation did so to attract tourists to the area. The town's mayor is skeptical about people's fear of the doll. However, he, like other locals, hesitates to approach it closely. In 2018, scientists became concerned about an impending drought and began warning people about it. It turns out they weren't the only ones alerting people to the danger. In many drying up water bodies across Europe, so-called hunger stones were revealed. They serve as messages from the past. During severe droughts of past centuries, people left inscriptions on stones that were fully submerged in water under normal air temperatures. These inscriptions warned people that a year of famine was approaching. Modern temporary droughts aren't as problematic as they were less than 100 years ago. In previous centuries, the absence of rain, heat, and drying up of water bodies meant a lack of harvest, and consequently, famine. Therefore, people devised a way to leave cautionary messages about hard times for their descendants. One of the most famous hunger stones is a stone that appeared above the surface of the Czech River Elbe. It bears the inscription, "If you see me, weep." The stone dates back to 1616. Hunger stones are unique messages from the past, showing us how people cared for their descendants. Residents of one of the small Colombian settlements began to notice strange sounds coming from under a bridge. They sounded like the mournful cry of a child, seemingly asking people for help. These sounds frightened the people for a long time, and they were afraid to approach this place during the dark hours. Therefore, a few brave men decided to go to the bridge and wait for the eerie sounds. They stayed near the bridge for a long time, but nothing unusual was noticed. As soon as the men were about to leave, that very strange sound echoed from the river. One of the men decided to look into the water. What he saw left him in shock. Inside the water was something resembling a ghost, the outline of which looked like a young girl. After sharing his experience, the man learned that almost half a century ago, not far from the current bridge, a girl had been murdered, and her body was found in the river. Astonishingly, the local residents believed the man. Now, they believe that the strange sounds were made by the ghost of that very murdered girl. In 2022, in the mangrove swamps of the Caribbean islands, scientists made a sensational discovery. They managed to identify a bacterium of incredible size. This type of microorganism was named Thiomargarita magnifica. Their length can reach nearly a centimeter, which is more than 5,000 times the length of other bacteria. We all know that one can only see a particular microorganism using a microscope. However, the magnificas are visible even to the naked eye. These bacteria look like thin white threads, resembling eyelashes. They consist of microscopic sulfur granules, which give them a unique shine. Interestingly, this microorganism was discovered back in 2009 by a French scientist. However, he mistook it for a fungus and did not pursue further study. Now, after a detailed analysis, it's clear that these Caribbean bacteria are prokaryotes, since they lack a membrane-bound nucleus. They derive their energy from the oxidation of reduced sulfur. They are truly unique because they not only have gigantic sizes, but also appear as a single cell. A remarkable example of how animals can adapt to even the most extreme conditions and survive is demonstrated by alligators from the Natural Park in North Carolina. In 2018, the U.S. experienced a particularly cold winter. Air temperatures plunged to near-record lows, causing many bodies of water to freeze. The swamps in Charlotte River Swamp Park were no exception. The alligators inhabiting them faced challenges but found a way to endure the winter. Park staff witnessed a peculiar sight. Emerging from the ice-covered swamp were the snouts of reptiles. At first glance, it might seem the frost caught the alligators off guard, and that ice trapped them as they tried to exit the water and reach land. One of the park's employees posted pictures of this phenomenon, along with a video explaining the real events to puzzled viewers. It turns out the alligators employ a fascinating survival technique. To breathe, they poke their snouts out of the ice, while their bodies go into a state of hibernation. The ice holds their dormant bodies and prevents them from sinking. So, these reptiles only appear to be dead. With the arrival of warmer temperatures and the melting of the ice, they return to their normal lives. During their research in Chongqing, Chinese zoologists heard an unusual sound coming from a swamp. Approaching closer, they inspected the water body and spotted a nondescript frog. After capturing it, they proceeded to analyze its DNA. It turned out that they had discovered a new species of previously unstudied frogs, which they named Nidorana chongqingensis. The name refers to the city of Chongqing, near which the specimen was found. The frog is small in size, only about 4 centimeters long. Its back is dark brown with spots, while its belly has a light cream shade. The frog's eye iris is multicolored. The upper part is bright yellow, and the lower part is brown-red. The Chongqing frog inhabits mountain swamps and ponds. On land, it hides in dry leaves, camouflaging itself, which is why this species managed to remain undiscovered for a long time. Currently, the behavior of these frogs remains largely unknown, except for the fact that the males emit a screeching sound at night. However, their discovery has allowed scientists to focus on studying them. Back in the 1980s in the Alps, archaeologists discovered the remains of 4 specimens of phytosaurs of a previously unknown species. Only recently have scientists begun studying these fossils. Looking at these skulls, you might notice a resemblance to crocodiles or gharials. One could assume that phytosaurs were the ancestors of modern reptiles. However, as scientists discovered, there is no direct kinship between them. The external resemblance of phytosaurs to crocodiles demonstrates a clear example of convergent evolution, where external similarities between animals arise due to similarities in their habitats. Phytosaurs were amphibious reptiles, living in rivers and lakes. The new species was found in deposits from an ancient oceanic environment. Therefore, scientists believe that some types of phytosaurs were marine. An analysis of the alpine phytosaur remains showed that their body length reached 4 meters. All 4 specimens were in the process of maturing. According to researchers, they died at the age of 8. This discovery was significant for paleontologists, shedding light on a new species of previously unstudied phytosaurs. In 2016, American archaeologists were stunned by their new discovery. At a depth of 9 meters in an underwater sinkhole, They found stone tools about 14,500 years old, as well as bones of mastodons and prehistoric elephants. Previously, scientists believed that the first people settled in America around 13,000 years ago. This people came from Siberia and were called Clovis. Their descendants spread throughout the territory of North America. After their arrival, many species of ancient animals disappeared, as the Clovis actively hunted them. The discovery in 2016 made scientists reconsider the history of the continent's settlement. Thanks to it, it was found out that the first humans came to America at least 1,500 years earlier than previously thought. Moreover, these people were not related to the Clovis people. This was indicated by differences in tool-making techniques. Who these ancient people were remains unknown, as archaeologists haven't yet found any human remains from that time. Research is complicated by the fact that the habitats of ancient peoples are now deeply underwater. In China, in Hubei province, lies one of the most unusual highways in the world. It is situated on a bridge built not across a river, as is usually done, but along the flow. The overall length of the highway is more than 4 kilometers. The bridge was constructed back in 2015. It connects road segments between the cities of Guzheng and Shanghai. Although the bridge is a unique landmark, the idea to build it along the Xianxi River was not conceived merely to attract tourists. The river is surrounded by mountains on all sides. Laying a road in such terrain is very challenging and costly. Building a bridge along the river proved much more cost-effective than constructing a road through the mountains. Moreover, this solution helped preserve the magnificent natural environment in its pristine form. Now, picturesque landscapes of untouched mountains and forests delight the eyes of those traveling the highway. At the end of 2022, Wiley Pruitt, a resident of the American city of Oxford, while walking along the receded Mississippi River, accidentally noticed something resembling a jaw fragment with a black tooth. He took the find home, and 3 days later, brought it to a museum of fossils and artifacts. An expert from the museum speculated that it might be the remains of an ancient animal. After a detailed analysis, it was revealed that the jaw fragment belonged to a Panthera atrox, or American lion. American lions went extinct about 11,000 years ago. They were the largest representatives of their kind, alongside the Mosbach lions. Their body length averaged 2.4 meters, with a height of about 1.2 meters. The weight of these gigantic cats could reach 450 kilograms. The Mississippi River is an essential transport waterway in the USA. In 2022, due to intense heat, its water level significantly dropped. After the substantial recession, people began to frequently find many interesting and valuable items previously hidden at the river's bottom. In a river in Oregon, archaeologists discovered a priceless artifact, an ancient stone knife. The age of the find, according to scientists' estimates, is approximately 15,000 years. The knife was used as a tip for a hunting tool for mammoths and mastodons. The ancient tool was found in an area rich in artifacts of the Clovis people. These individuals are considered the first settlers of America. One might assume the knife belonged to the Clovis, but scientists think otherwise. In their opinion, the hunting tool was used by some unknown race that came to America almost 2,000 years before the Clovis. This was suggested by the tool's similarity to Clovis instruments. The Clovis were distinct in that they didn't invent their tools, but always copied the technologies of other races. If these people were the first settlers, then from whom did they copy this knife? To date, scientists are not jumping to conclusions as to who the tip really belonged to. They are now focused on thorough excavations, which should help them find an answer to this question. In May 2011, a New York resident accidentally discovered a strange creature washed up on the shores of the East River. The monster was quite impressive in size. Its body length exceeded 2 meters, and its appearance was puzzling. The unknown creature resembled a fish with the head of a dog. The photograph of the monster quickly spread on the internet. Users tried to decipher what it might be, speculating about cryptids and mythological beings. However, zoology experts calmed the online debate. They stated that the monster was merely an Atlantic sturgeon. This species of fish is indeed ancient. Sometimes it's even referred to as a living fossil. Atlantic sturgeons are notable for their large size, with body lengths reaching up to 2.5 meters and weights up to 140 kilograms. Instead of scales, these sturgeons have 5 rows of bony plates or shields. Because of this, they look different from other fish and can be mistaken for unknown creatures. The summer of 2022 brought drought to many corners of our planet, and Spain was no exception. On one hand, the drought caused many serious problems, but on the other, scientists were able to thoroughly study prehistoric stones. The dolmen of Guadalperal is often associated with the English Stonehenge. These two stone clusters indeed resemble each other. The Spanish stones were long hidden in the deep waters of the Valdecañas reservoir, but after the waters receded, they became accessible for research. The Spanish Stonehenge consists of 150 granite rocks arranged in a circle. Its diameter is 5 meters. Inside the dolmen, there is a space resembling a kind of corridor, 21 meters long and almost 1.5 meters wide. The ancient stones were discovered in 1926 by archaeologist Hugo Obermeier before they were fully submerged in the reservoir's waters. According to scientists, the age of the dolmens is 5,000 years. In the basins of the Amazon lives a rather unusual fish, the pacu fish. This type of river dweller shares origins with piranhas. Both species have the same number of teeth, but pacu's teeth resemble human ones more. Another difference between pacu and piranhas is their diet. While piranhas are carnivorous, pacus are omnivorous. Pacu also feed on other fish, but their favorite delicacy is nuts. With their square, flat teeth, they easily crack shells. These fish gained a bad reputation after a few fishermen were injured by them. In all these cases, the fish attacked the men and bit off their testicles. Thus, locals believed that the fish loved to eat male reproductive glands, but more likely, they mistook them for nuts, which is why they tried to swallow their favorite treat. Although pacu is considered a South American fish, in recent years this species has been found all over the world, in Denmark, North America, Russia, England, and other countries. It is believed that pacus are not aggressive fish, so they are often bred in aquariums. However, they aren't the best choice for an aquarium pet, as they can grow up to 100 centimeters in length. At the end of 2022, while draining one of the bogs near the Danish town of Stenløse, archaeologists discovered the remains of a mummified person, specifically several fragments of the pelvic bone and the lower jaw. They were carefully extracted from the peat bog and taken to a laboratory for further study. Based on preliminary analysis of the remains, scientists concluded that they are approximately 5,000 years old. Currently, it is unknown who this person was. However, based on other similar findings and the presence of ritual objects near the remains, scientists speculated that he was killed and sacrificed. Such a practice was common in many European countries thousands of years ago. People were killed, and then their bodies were thrown into the bog. Bodies submerged in peat bogs naturally mummified and were excellently preserved until the present day. For instance, the mummy Tolland Man, found back in 1950, looks as if the man simply fell asleep. The remains from Stenløse still need to be studied in more detail. Bog people mummies are extremely rare discoveries, so each finding is highly valuable to scientists and historians. In the small town of Ona in Florida, there stands a true work of art, a 3-story castle covering more than 1,000 square meters. This castle was built by local resident Howard Solomon. The masterpiece looks very unusual since its facade is made from recycled metal. The walls of the castle seem to mirror the sunlight, making Solomon's creation impossible to overlook. In his interviews, Howard shared that he came to Florida in 1972 and purchased a piece of land that included a swamp. This did not deter him. and he began building a home for himself. During the construction, he decided, why not erect a castle here? And he set about doing so. Howard Solomon spent 12 years building his dwelling, working no less than 12 hours a day. When Howard completed the castle, people from the town thought he was mad. Why would an ordinary man spend 12 years building himself a castle and decorating its walls with aluminum sheets? However, Howard was very proud of his creation. In 2016, Howard Solomon passed away, but his wife continues to live in this whimsical, shining castle. And that's all from me. If you enjoyed this video, please rate it, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. We'll see each other soon. Goodbye.